Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. I'm Nick Pretzel, joined today by my co-hosts Cody and Jill. Cody, how are you doing on this fine Saturday morning?
Nick, I am fantastic. You did that so well. I almost said James, I'm fantastic. That's kind of crazy. Little James 2.0 over here. No, doing well. There's a lot of fun things to talk about today. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube or here, if you're listening anywhere, there is no James Strong with us today. He is enjoying the beginning of his vacation, so he will more than likely not be with us on this show and the next show, but we'll get him back as soon as he gets back and situated from his vacation. So, Jill, how are you today?
I am alive and well, excited to talk about the news that we have to share, that we're all hype about.
Yep. Clearly, again, if you're watching on YouTube, we all chose to wear the TJ Watt jersey today. That was not planned, but I totally knew it was going to happen. We discussed a couple times about how we keep buying jerseys of guys that get traded away or end their careers with the Steelers or whatever, and they don't stick around. Well, this one looks like it might stick around for a while. So at least 3 more years, so 4 years total, including this year. Let's talk about it. TJ Watt extension. 3 years, $123 million, 108 of that, which is guaranteed, and it's a $41 million a year average, which puts him above Jamar Chase and Myles Garrett, the 2 other guys that kind of broke that record. Highest paid non-quarterback. Jill, we're going to start with you today. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm hype. I am so excited. I think it was so smart. I think the way the contract was laid out, it really works well for the Steelers. I feel like TJ's worth every penny that we can pay for. And I think it still leaves enough cap room to where if we want to go after a franchise quarterback next draft, we have all of that room to still go after somebody and offer a lot on the table. So I think the Steelers did a great job with both parts, because I feel like Khan's been doing a great job of being smart with money, but like TJ getting what he actually deserves, I think it worked out well for both parties.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of keeping TJ in the Berg. We've been saying it for weeks, been asking James if we still had the money to pay him every time we brought in somebody new. And I really am excited to not have to worry about that anymore. We have our all-pro edge rusher locked down. He's a veteran presence that we need in that room, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where we've got a lot of these younger guys who are still learning both the Steeler culture and the NFL. So it's very exciting to have that around for another 3 years after this year as well. And the cap hit this year is still pretty low. Mm-hmm. And I believe I saw a graphic somewhere that was discussing how the Minka move actually gave us a little extra funds this year, since the hit on TJ's deal doesn't come until next year. That would enable us to potentially still make another move if we need to go get another guy this year to kind of complement who we've got and maybe make a deeper run as well. So really like the moves that they've been making. Glad that hit mostly comes later on, especially with the group that we've got now. And that allows us to not have to worry about another position going forward, because there are a lot of guys on this team that are younger. And if we had lost TJ, it would have been next guy up. So we would have had either Nick Herbig, who's good, but not TJ Watt good, or Jack Sawyer, who we just drafted and hasn't even played in the NFL yet. So, I mean, maybe you throw a Jeremiah Moon or somebody else in there, as we talked a little bit about during some of the previous roster building discussions. But sorry, Cody, your roster prediction didn't go so well there. But
I'm not upset about it. I'm not upset about it.
Did not go the way you foresaw it potentially going.
I'm not upset about it at all. And yeah, to go back to what you said, I believe the cap hit for Minka was going to be around $22 million. The cap hit for Jalen Ramsey is like $4 million. So that saved us a lot of money there. And the cap hit for TJ this year is 23.3, so 23.3 million. Next year and the year after it's 42 million, and then that fourth year is 46 million. So it does go up. Next year, he covers a little like 13.5% of the cap on the team. So to explain how much they put into this guy, it's a lot. It's well deserved. I'm very happy he got this extension. I'm very excited to see him stay, hopefully a Steeler for his entire career. Someone else who's excited, this is a brief side thing that you guys don't know about. That's okay. I went to a Seawolves game last night, and there was a little girl in front of me that just turned around and just started yapping, just talking to me. It was so funny, so cute. She was eating ice cream. She was handing me pieces of nachos and pieces of ice cream, me and my girlfriend, and it was hysterical. But her name is Peyton, and she was also TJ Watt's her favorite player, and she's so happy he signed. And so big shout out to Peyton and her dad. They were fun to watch the game with last night. But yeah, I mean, this is here's the question before we talk about anything else. Does this change anything for this year as far as you guys think Super Bowl contenders, playoff wins? Does shoring TJ's there change your outlook on the season or its potential?
I think I always banked on TJ being there. So I don't think my outlook changes all that much because I just, in my heart of hearts, knew he was staying. So now that it's true, I feel like he adds, I feel like TJ actually shows us what what Steeler football is all about. Like he has the work ethic that reminds me of some of these blockbuster 70s players. Like that's what I feel like he brings to the team. And so I hope that we get a Super Bowl for him, for Cam, these guys that have been that show true grit to being the best football player that they can be and really bringing our culture forward. I hope we make the push and we get there. I really do.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether or not the Steelers were going to re-sign him. I was very hopeful that they would. There were some moments and times where I thought it felt a little bit more up in the air, and then you hear all the rumors and you never know which one's accurate. They made progress. They're making no progress. They're so far apart, and all that kind of banter that goes on, especially during this time of the year when there's so little football news to actually be discussing. But having a TJ that is 100% locked in now and not having to worry about these types of discussions that's going to be at training camp, because let's be honest, he didn't need to be at mini camp, but but getting him into training camp and having him in that room, it just elevates a lot of the other guys that are around him, and that for sure will improve our chances. And I do believe that them getting to learn from him and seeing him post the picture with Nick Herbig from working out the day that the contract got done, it just gives you a better feeling. So I don't think it changes too much because I think that the plan was always to get him back in. And I'm glad that we guaranteed him at least $1 million per all the sacks that he's had so far. I think that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
And JJ's post about if this guy even lets me begin to reach for my wallet when we go to dinner had me on the floor. But he's one of those guys that builds the culture, that the team rallies around, that the fans rally around, that brings you a lot of those splash play renegade moments that help the Steelers get to victory. So I think if we had lost him, it would have definitely changed my outlook for the season. But this, I think, only really improves my feelings slightly because now I'm not worried about it. I'm confident that he'll be there, that he won't be disgruntled, that he's locked in, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think I'm right on board with you guys. I think the difference for me is kind of similar to what you just said, Nick, is yes, we always expected him there. Yes, we're happy he's there. I obviously thought there was a chance. I would have been very upset, but there was a chance. I think the big thing for me is there's a buddy of mine that I talk to a lot, and he says, Pittsburgh got older at every position this offseason. They got worse in a lot of positions. The cornerback room, although got older, I think it improved because of the veteran presence. There is something to be said about the athleticism that you lose when you get older. So yeah, Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, these guys might be a little bit concerning. Even Brandon Echols, I think he's a little bit older. I can't remember exactly. My thing here is you now have a Super Bowl winner on the team with Darius Slay, who's been showing off his Philadelphia Eagles ring, and that's going to hype up some guys. And then two, even if the cornerback room is worse, and the safety room with the loss of Minka, even if we struggle a little bit with the transition of post Minka, your front seven are going to devour. Your front seven are going to eat. So quarterbacks are going to feel pressure. The running game should be starting to get stuffed again with the presence of Cam, Keanu, and now Derek Harmon. Jack Sawyer, if he starts getting playing time, is going to be phenomenal. We saw what Peyton Wilson can do. I mean, he's a freak of nature. And then having the veteran presence currently still of Cole Holcomb and Patrick Queen at those linebacker positions, mixed with Alex Highsmith, who is now a veteran, and TJ Watt on the outside. I mean, this front seven is probably arguably top 5 in the league, if not top 2 or 3, in my opinion. The Philadelphia Eagles still have a very good front seven. But wow, this changes everything in my mind, that to knowing that he's there, because your secondary can now play a little bit more. I don't want to say lax, because they shouldn't play lax, but there's a confidence of, all right, this ball is going to have to come out early because the quarterbacks are going to feel presence. So I'm excited to see what happens there. Do you guys have anything?
It enables you to scheme a little more differently, because you have TJ up there, and you know that teams, as like, I know Sean McVay's mentioned it. I think Sean McDermott's mentioned it. I've seen several coaches in the NFL talk about having to game plan specifically for that one guy in TJ Watt. They can't worry about the other guys like the Cam Haywards and the Keanu Bennetts, because they have to focus on TJ. So it gives us a little bit more of a leeway on the defensive side of the ball, because we have that true game record presence. And he hasn't really seemed to slow down. Last year wasn't his best year, but it also was still not a bad year by any means. And other guys got to shine because TJ was the focal point of most people's offensive schemes to try and negate to try and negate his impact. So when he's getting chipped on most of his plays, let alone double teamed, or on one occasion I think even triple teamed and held, and it didn't get called. And you have that game record presence that it opens up everything else, and you can get a guy like Cam Hayward, who has as many passes deflected as the reigning defensive player of the year Pat Surtain, and like 4 other elite defensive backs in the league. So you got this star-studded offense, or defense rather, and it really becomes more of a, for lack of a better analogy, a constellation when you've got that added piece of the puzzle there. Having TJ be able to do what he does to enable other people to shine more.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even though he didn't have like his quote unquote best year last year, he wasn't 100% healthy. He had to compensate for that, and he still was working hard. And he also had to compensate for other people not doing their job. So I feel like when we actually have a line that's going to do their job, we're going to see some results that are hopefully very good.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited to see some better results than what we've had in the past. Maybe this is the year we get our playoff win. The one thing I'm going to ask you guys, trivia question before we move on from this TJ Watt topic. TJ Watt has missed 11 games in his 8-year career. What is the Steelers' record for those 11 games?
0-11.
0-11.
1-10. Okay. Very close. 1-10. So I mean that by itself, speaks volumes to his presence, in my opinion.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I was even watching like this interview with Joe Burrow where he was like, I have to be aware of where he's at. Like, I have to look at him differently, because he's just always going to be like, I need to know where to throw it, because I know he could potentially get it. So,
Yep. Go ahead.
I loved the interview with Ben on Ben's podcast, where he asked him, would you rather go up against a guy who's a little bit bigger and stronger and can kind of move you around but can't move himself around as well? Or would you rather go up against a smaller, quicker guy? And TJ just leans into the mic and goes, it does not matter. And I love that mentality from him.
Yes.
I love everything about that from him and from him.
I feel like the one thing I will say that Myles Garrett has a benefit to is, yes, he moves around a lot, And I think that we talk about how that's him kind of cheating the numbers a little bit, going up against easier offensive linemen, which I agree with 100%. However, the benefit that gives is you don't always know where he's going to be. Guys like Joe Burrow have to physically look, okay, he's over here, okay, he's over here. And you can wreck. Imagine if TJ Watt did move around like that. I mean, you can wreck game plans. They're going to come out expecting to run to the left, and then TJ's just like, haha, over here. Like, I do admit that that's probably a strength for Myles Garrett. But again, go up against who's against you, not try to always go up against an easier guy. But no, very, very, very excited for the TJ Watt extension. I'm sure we'll be talking about this more and more as the time goes on. Now we're going to transition and talk about the Cleveland Browns for just a hot minute. Quinshon Judkins, their rookie running back. I believe he was a second round pick? First round pick. Second round pick. Yeah, second round pick, arrested. Not looking good. The more details that come out, the more it's not okay. Domestic violence. Apparently punching his girlfriend in the face, all kinds of stuff. She still had the bruising when she called about it after the fact. What does this say about this Cleveland Browns team that continues to bring guys in that have off the field issues? You think back to, and it hasn't all been domestic violence, but you think back to even Johnny Manziel with the drugs and the crazy lifestyle he lived, didn't actually want to practice, bringing in Deshaun Watson with all the sexual harassment charges that just disappeared because of money. I mean, now you got a guy, rookie out of Ohio State, Quinshon Judkins. Like, what does this say about their front office and their ability to judge a person's character?
Not good things, if you ask me. And my initial reaction was, so when's the Justin Tucker signing coming through? However, that being said, they've got two guys in this rookie draft class who have had run-ins with the law. And so it's like they're just trying to collect them like Infinity Stones or something. You have to wonder who in the office is pulling the trigger on those types of guys. And you have to wonder about their scouting too, because that's where a lot of the initial reporting comes in. Those are the people who really try to do the homework on those guys and try to kind of, gas them up a little bit to the head honchos in Stefanski and whoever else the Browns have, because I really don't care about their organization that much. But that being said, you got to wonder about what it is they're seeing in these guys and if they're just taking bad risks on the talent as opposed to actually worrying about the character of the guys and letting that be more of a thing they hope is coachable, or if they actually are just ignoring it and just saying, oh, it's not going to be a problem. And then, well, shocker, it is. So I'm not sure what the actual case is because we're not in those conversations or in those rooms, but it does make you scratch your head more than a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I feel like their decisions are not necessarily cohesive, like coming in with 5 quarterbacks for the season, like already right there, that just makes you put a big question mark. And then on top of that, like these guys, like already from the get-go with Deshaun Watson, like already that's the standard. And so that makes me leery as a person of like, when you are in these meetings with these athletes, what is the green flag for you that says, yes, we want them on the team? Or are we just so disjointed as an organization that we don't know what we're looking for, which is kind of what it feels like to me. Like, it feels like, well, this guy looks good here and this guy looks good here. And it's a lot of like quick decisions that don't necessarily make sense that you just hope is going to work in the season. And again, like Nick said, we're not in the room. We don't know what's actually going on or what conversations are being had, but from the outside, it doesn't look like they're working as a joint organization. It's just a bunch of random decisions being made. And I'm like, if there was like a theme or like you're seeing the same type of player being picked, but we see the same type of player being picked. It's just not the right type of player,
Yeah.
And I'm the person, and this is what I love about the Steelers. For the most part, we do go typically for the guys that show character, because character can't be coached. Like, that's an internal thing that can become Like that can become better or worse depending on who you surround yourself with. But that's internal. You can't coach somebody to be a good person. Like they have to want it themselves.
And they haven't been afraid to move on in terms of Pittsburgh from people who are an issue and get things in return from those people too. So
Yeah.
I am not as afraid of Pittsburgh picking one of those types of guys because I know we can at least make something out of that situation.
Right.
With a guy like Quinshawn, who's now in somewhat real legal trouble, it's like, well, what's going to happen with his career after that before it's even gotten started? So it brings up a bit of a concern there. Cody, did you have more thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, it's a Kareem Hunt situation. It's a Ray Rice situation, which is another from the Ravens with another AFC North team.
Rashee Rice situation.
Rashee Rice situation. Yeah. I mean, Josh Gordon was suspended. You had Armani Bryant get suspended, Ryan Seymour, Antonio Callaway, Myles Garrett, Larry Ogunjobi all got 4, 6, and 1 game suspensions in 2019. We just saw Justin Tucker for the allegations that he's going through, which aren't even, they're still allegations. He received a 10-game suspension. This guy got arrested. Like I have to assume that he's going to be suspended for the entire year. There's no way he's not.
Yeah.
There was enough evidence to actually arrest and all these other things. And so I feel like they're trying to create a super team with a combination. They're doing what Pittsburgh's doing, just a very bad job of it. They're bringing in veterans, they're bringing in younger players through the draft, but they're not, I feel like they're not caring about character at all. Bringing Deshaun Watson in after the massive number, it's not the allegations that like frustrate me. I've seen and I know that sometimes people say things happened and they didn't, and it's a he said, she said. I get that. But the number of allegations that came against him was incredible. And then just seeing how that all played out, like, they got paid off. That's what happened. And so to bring in a guy like that and then to have the absolute worst contract in NFL history, $230 million guaranteed, that was even a bigger, like, you already made a big whoopsie. And then I see that and I'm like, oh, you really don't have any standards for your team whatsoever.
No. But then that could also lead to and I mean, I'll only go there for a brief second because I don't want to harp on it too much, but like what the NFL allows, you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I am a woman, so being on the other end of it, where your life gets destroyed, and then they get a 6-game suspension, I'm sorry, that's not okay. Yeah. So I think it should be way more severe than what they currently do. But part of that, I feel like with the Browns organization, there are no repercussions at the NFL level, like, hey, as a whole organization, this is where it stops. And so they can make these dumb decisions because there's no standard, whereas like other teams, they do make, better decisions because we're going to part ways with this person. We don't want to be affiliated with this kind of thing.
I've kind of got to wonder too, how much of it permeated the organization. I don't know if the two of you heard about the NFL Players Association. The head of it stepped down for using company funds to go to strip clubs. So when it's that
Trickle
ingrained,
oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you've got to wonder how much of it is not necessarily sponsored by, but how much of it is just looked the other way because of individuals who are a part of, I know it's not the NFL directly, it was the Players Association, but it was the head of it has now stepped down because of spending funds and on a rental car to get him there too. So just very interesting to see how many things like this end up taking place, not just from the people that are brought into to play for the league and different organizations, but also from people who deal with the business and other sides of things that end up, you wonder how many of those things you don't hear about because it's not as big of a name.
Yep. We've talked about this a lot, and I want to end it here because we could talk about this all day because how bad the Browns are. I feel like so much of this also stems from an environment that you experience from a kid growing up. The locker room talk, the boys in the locker room talking about the cute or hot or attractive girls, at school or whatever, and the things they're going to do. And it's all in my mind, it's all disgusting. There was a time in my life where when I was younger, I thought that was what the cool kids did. And I'm happy that I never did that, because even to this day, I mean, I quit a job. I quit a blue collar job because I couldn't handle the way the guys talked about women and the way they talked about girls they were seeing or whatever else they wanted to use to describe what they were called it. And I think that, yes, the NFL needs to set a better example. The NFL needs to set a line and say, if there is enough evidence, especially for you to get arrested, we don't want you in our league. Like, I'm sorry.
Period.
There's no suspension that justifies that. Yes,
no.
All three of us here are Christians, and yes, we believe in second chances. That doesn't mean you deserve a stage or a platform like the NFL.
Yep.
And so that's my personal opinion on it. That is me just sharing that off the top. But I think coaches of younger generational teams and little leagues and all these things need to be more present in these locker rooms and correct these young boys who are growing up to be not men. I don't know what you want to call it, just tormentors.
Boys.
Yeah. At some point you don't gotta correct harshly, but hey, we don't talk about women like that. Like, women are to be respected, loved, cared for, that's the way it is. So end rant. Let's move on.
That was a good rant. No, I like that. Good rant.
We're gonna briefly discuss now training camp battles. So wide receiver and O-line is the last groups we have to cover. Let's do wide receivers because I think we've talked about this a little bit. It's a clear cut and dry in most of our opinions as far as the wide receiver battle. So wide receivers on the team right now: DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, Robert Woods, Ben Skoranek, Scotty Miller, Brandon Johnson, Lance McCutcheon, Rock Taylor, Keyshawn Williams, and Montana Leminis Craig. Those are the wide receivers on the team.
Yeah, and looking at the depth chart that ESPN has listed here, they've currently got Calvin Austin listed as the number 2, which makes me happy. A lot of other sources have Robert Woods listed as the number 2, which I don't hate, but I would rather see Calvin get that shot. I know he's a little bit smaller of a guy, but the training camp, or the mini camp rather, the OTAs, different sources coming out of there and different things you were hearing were saying that people have been really impressed with Calvin Austin. And maybe that's just the off-season talk of we're going to gas up our players a little bit, make them feel good, get them in here working and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to see him get the shot to be a number 2. And I think in an Arthur Smith-led offense that includes both Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, you're going to get to see him be that number 2 receiver, but in a sort of a different way that suits his build and play style a little bit better. He can be that kind of burner on the outside if he needs to, and you can have a larger presence over the middle that's a bit of a mismatch between the linebackers or whoever might be lining up against a Pat Freiermuth or a Jonnu Smith.
Yep.
So I really like seeing him there. I know that's not really a battle, but it is sort of a battle for that number 2 position between Robert Woods and Calvin Austin. And I like to see, at least now, that Calvin has a bit of the edge there, because I don't dislike Robert Woods, but I'd rather see our young guy that I know I bring up every time, but that we sniped from the Ravens, do a little bit of have a bit more of a role in the offense.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Woods is definitely the taller of the two. Especially the way that Pittsburgh is looking to be a tight end heavy and run heavy team again, based on all the moves we've made so far. My opinion of this is I think Calvin Austin is the second wide receiver on the list of who they want to be in there. The problem is it's going to be very hard to run with him because he's so small and it's going to be difficult for him to block. However, the benefit of him having DK Metcalf, how many times have you seen highlights where DK Metcalf is running and either the quarterback scrambles or it's a run play and DK just throws his hand up and pretends he's going for the ball and just takes the corners and safeties with him. So I think that DK is going to teach Calvin, hey, sometimes you don't have to block. Sometimes you just need to make them think you're getting the ball. And so I look forward, and I'm calling it right now, I look forward to the first time we see Calvin do that. and a guy running right behind him and just running because there's free space because the defender's still playing Calvin. But don't get it mixed. I do think that when all three wide receivers are in there, Calvin's going to line up in the slot. Like there's no reason he wouldn't. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't think there's a whole big wide receiver battle for position. I think the biggest thing is who's going to be number 5 and 6. And 6 if they keep 6. I don't think they're going to keep 6. They're going to be 3 tight end heavy set. I think it's going to be between Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek. Unfortunately, I don't think any of these other guys have a chance. So
I want to see Rock Taylor so bad.
But he's only on a 1-year deal, right? So
yeah,
they did just give Ben Skoranek more money than they usually give the back of the roster special team wide receiver kind of player. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him on the roster. We need those kinds of players. However, they do have Scotty Miller listed as the backup punt returner to Calvin Austin right now. So each guy carries their own sort of, here's the upside, here's the, so it's going to be interesting to see. I'd prefer to see them keep Skoranek. I also love seeing him do an alley-oop while playing basketball with Aaron Rodgers. So good to see them building some sort of connection there, and I'd really like to see him around. I liked him when he played for Los Angeles. I'm glad that we picked him up when we did. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you there, Cody. I don't see them keeping more than 5. But if they do keep 6, I think that's the biggest question mark there, because a lot of those other guys, I think maybe Lance McCutcheon and one of the other guys that you mentioned, because I'm only seeing Keyshawn Williams was the other one, and Brandon Johnson.
Yeah.
But I don't think most of those guys are veteran guys. I think a number of those players are
younger,
undrafted free agents that came in this year. So who knows? Maybe we'll see another Jaylen Warren-like guy who really shocks and surprises and makes the roster, and they decide to keep 6. I'm hoping that happens, because I would love to see another star come out, but you don't think it's more likely than not.
Yeah. So oddly enough, and then I'll let you guys share any final thoughts if you have anything different to add. And I think you guys will actually both agree with me, especially Joe. Oddly enough, I think the battle for 5 is between Ben Skoranek and Scotty Miller. I think if they keep 6, they're not keeping both of them. I think there will be another guy come up. So it's Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek are literally just fighting for that 5th spot. Whoever doesn't win it is off the team. Ben Skoranek, in my opinion, is going to win it because of vulnerability. But again, very, very interesting. And I love watching receivers in preseason. I love it so much. So I'm excited to see what happens there. Anything else for you guys to add from that wide receiver room?
No, you guys said everything I thought.
Oh, dang.
Come on, guys.
Reading the mind of Jill.
Come on.
Nothing from the wide receiver room, but I believe we still have to go over the offensive line.
100%. So offensive line, I'm going to read the names real quick. And I'm just going to go down the list. So at left tackle, in order, the way that it's listed on the quote-unquote depth chart right now, none of this is necessarily accurate other than the starters. Broderick Jones, Dylan Cook, and Gareth Warren. Left guard, Isaac Siamalu, Spencer Anderson, Nick Broker, Aiden Williams. Center, Zach Frazier, Ryan McCollum. Right guard, Mason McCormick, Max Sharping, Stephen Jones. Right tackle, Droy Fatanu, Calvin Anderson, and Doug Nestor. Those are all the offensive linemen on the team right now. The top 5 are locked. We know our starters. But what happens there? Who's fighting for a position? What do you guys think?
Did you say Dylan Cook, or am I losing it?
Dylan Cook, yeah.
Okay.
It was the second name I said.
He's the one I think is risking not making the roster.
Interesting.
But yeah, well, I mean, he was battling an injury. He was on the practice squad. What was it? 2020? He was on the practice squad. Thank you. I was like, what year was that? But then he was also on the practice squad with his previous team. So I just feel like, especially if we go with 6 wide receivers, like if that's the route we go, I just don't think we have the space to also have him as a backup on the offensive line. Like, if with all the defensive people we have, like there's just no space on that 53-man roster to keep him and a 6 wide receiver. Now, if we don't go a 6 wide receiver, I could potentially see him doing it, but I don't think he's making the team.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm feeling like Ryan McCollum and Spencer Anderson are pretty much locks. Maybe Calvin Anderson too. The other guys is where it starts to become more of like the who's going to be there. Are they going to keep 5 or are we sticking with 4? Because Spencer Anderson kind of has a little bit of versatility there, so he could be a backup for more than one position. But if more than one guy goes down, he obviously can't be in 2 places at once. So it's like, which guy makes the roster? Do we try and keep some of these guys on the practice squad? You know, there's a large room there. Nick Broker, I believe is how you say his last name. He's a guy that I'm interested to see in the preseason, see how he does, see if he can potentially beat out one of those guys for a potential roster spot. Because I believe he was in Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken. I
drafted
saw
from
him,
Buffalo.
Yeah, I saw him do a few things there that I was like, oh, he can move some guys around. So I wouldn't be upset to see him make the roster, and I don't know too much about your Gareth Warrens, your Aiden Williams, Steve Jones, Doug Nestor, those types of guys I'm not as familiar with. So I don't know who, if any of them, would be able to potentially push any of these guys, but I'm glad that we do at least have bodies there to make these guys work harder through camp to be able to retain the positions that they have. Because you never want a guy to become complacent at any point in time. You want to see them have that fire lit under them to keep pushing and striving and be better. And some guys naturally have that, some guys don't. So it's good to have more guys here to make some of them work a little harder to keep doing what they need to be doing.
Yeah. Gareth Warren, I am interested to watch him in the preseason. He's actually out of Hawaii. He's 6'6", 333 pounds. He's one of the bigger offensive linemen that we have outside of the starters. And so I'm excited to see what he can do. I think that Pittsburgh needs to get into more of these big maulers like we used to have. You know, I think of Alejandro Villanueva, just the tower that he was. And so I'm excited to see what can happen here. A lot of these guys are averaging in that 6'5" range. Doug Nestor is also a big one, 6'6", out of West Virginia. And again, height isn't everything, but I like seeing bigger offensive linemen and being able to protect. So I think outside of the top 5, I think they're only keeping 3. We kind of went over this in our 53-man roster predictions. And I like you said, I believe Spencer Anderson, Ryan McCollum are locks. I think I would take an absolute miracle for one of these other guys to knock them off. So then you just have Dylan Cook, Max Sharping, Calvin Anderson, and the list of other younger no-name guys right now fighting for that 8th position. And I think I actually think there's a chance that one of these younger guys, like you said, Nick Broker or somebody, knocking Calvin Anderson off or knocking one of these guys off just for the fact that Pittsburgh's not always going to consistently go with the guy that's been around. Yes, they have an advantage, but if someone can come in and make a splash or make a big pancake block or even do something else special in training camp or in preseason, they can definitely make a name for themselves and fight for that roster spot. So I'm excited to see it. Jill, anything else? Oh,
Nick's got something.
Speaking of pancakes, or at least eating, Cody, tell us about our lovely sponsor, the Edinburgh Hotel Bar.
That was a great transition. I will give you that. Edinburgh Hotel Bar is one of our sponsors. That is very, very true. I'm going to pull up their website here to show you. I thought it was
while
already.
He's doing that, did remember something that also happened this week. Patrick Queen listed on the NFL's top 100 players, I believe at number 75. Or something along that line. So congratulations to him. Happy to see another one of our guys make that list. And looking forward to seeing him hopefully beat up on his previous team of the Ravens twice this year. And on top of that, another little piece of AFC North news. We talked a lot about the Browns' current offseason struggles. Hopefully, as we've been discussing TJ Watt, we can remember that the Bengals still haven't paid their defensive players.
Nope,
Trey Hendrickson does not have a deal, and Shamar Stewart has gone back to his college team of Texas A&M to start practicing. And I heard through one source that the Bengals have also reached out to the NFL to ask them what would happen if they were not able to get him back and he goes back to college next year.
They'll probably get a compensatory pick.
But I heard that he was not practicing with the team. Like, it was just using the facility by himself, which is pretty common for somebody who's not living in the city of their NFL team.
And that's probably the case. I'm sure he's practicing with friends. I'm sure sure there's other players there. that are doing their own thing. However, I don't blame him in the slightest for doing this because of the
Not
way.
even a little.
I mean, if he accepts the contract the way it's written, it changes everything for rookie classes to come because you're opening a door where these guys basically don't have to pay you or can get out of their contract negotiations or whatever it is. I don't remember I remember hearing about it and knowing what it was. I can't remember what the stipulation is now that he's upset about.
They included some language where if he has any sort of like character violation or gets in trouble in any sort of way, that they can essentially void parts of the contract. I don't remember exactly what it is, but essentially that they could move on from him entirely without really another say in the matter. And it's language that's never been included in a rookie contract before.
Wow.
And it's complicating the waters for him, them, everyone. And I'm really hoping it doesn't go through because I don't want to see another situation where an AFC North rival sets a precedent that makes it everything harder for the rest of the league. And the Browns almost did it again too by guaranteeing a lot of the money for one of their second round picks. So that made all the second round picks have a bit of a issue signing, and that makes us glad, as James mentioned to us. Shout out James, who we'll have back someday. But that we didn't have a second round pick, and we traded that to get DK Metcalf. So we had a guy locked down. We didn't have to worry about the contract discussions, and a lot of those second round picks still remain unsigned. So anyway, Cody, tell us about the hotel bar.
So support for Steelers by the Lake. It included the Edinburgh Hotel Bar, located at 100 Meadville Street in downtown Edinburgh, offering daily lunch and dinner specials from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. For more information, please call 814-734-5103 or visit edinburghhotelbar.com. This is a watering hole and a place to go. We go there often. Nick Pretzel and I go watch games, just have dinner, whatever it is. We have a great time doing it. So love Pat over there at the Edinburgh Hotel Bar. Just saw him, I think yesterday it was. Went over, had some appetizers and a drink before going to the Seawolves game. And what a good time. What a good place. What a good vibe. So big shout out to them. Actually, and I think I mentioned this before all the time. That's where like Jill and I.
That's where,
pretty much where we met. We met I was DJing a wedding that she was at. And then I was like, yeah, we'll go out to Edinburgh. Edinburgh Hotel is the place to go. It has drastically changed since then. There's not as much things happening out here anymore. But
well, it was fun when we went. So
it was such a good time, such a fun time. You and I can't remember her name.
Jasmine.
So very excited. Again, you guys, this O-line, wide receiver, every single position has something interesting happening. And there's still a chance that Pittsburgh could bring in a big name safety. So we're going to keep our eyes open before training camp. Maybe I might try to get to training camp depending on the days and things happening. So, again, shout out to James that he wasn't here. We love you, James. We hope you're having a good vacation. We appreciate you guys watching. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to drop a like, comment, and let us know. Listen, if there's any position battles you guys are interested in, or if you have anything to share about the TJ Watt, let us know. We would love. Jill has something to say.
I do. Bringing back last week when y'all talked about the tight ends, and I'm real mad that I missed this conversation because y'all clocked me when I said Connor Hayward is like when we got Jonnu Smith. I was like, oh, that for me puts Connor Hayward up in the air, like even more up in the air. And you're like, oh no, he's totally gonna be fullback. And then last week, y'all were over here like, oh well, DJ Thomas Jones might be the fullback, and I was like.
I never said that.
I am mad.
I never said that. My hands are in the air. I plead the fifth.
I believe we were talking about the Steelers having ties to family, and the more you think about it, they may still keep him around for those family values. However, with the lack of production and with the guys that we've got now with the trade, it's hard to see it coming in. But
hold on. You're saying lack of production from Connor Hayward?
Yeah.
They never give him the ball. What do you mean?
Well, yeah.
You can't produce with things you don't have.
he scored a touchdown. We're on a tangent now.
I know. I'm sorry. I had
no,
to do
hey,
it, though.
hey, it's good. It's good. We're gonna keep this show going for you guys. You get extra content today. This is why Jill is here, because she brings the content.
You're welcome.
She's from Ohio, though, so yeah.
I'm from Pittsburgh. I live in Ohio.
That's
Get it
from
right.
Ohio.
We'll forgive you someday.
Okay.
In any case, so yes, they don't give him the ball very much, and when they did, he did have that really nice touchdown that I can remember when they played in their
In Atlanta?
father's home field of Atlanta. Yes, sorry, Arizona. It's more of what I'm talking about in terms of the lack of production is when they involve him in the run game. It's not from lack of effort. It's just that he's not the best blocker out there. And so when you see him out there and he will put what seems like decent effort into throwing a block, it just doesn't work. You got to wonder, they already have a guy who's not more of a blocking tight end as he is a receiving tight end in Jonnu Smith. So it's like, where does Connor Hayward's role come in now when you have a guy like DJ Thomas-Jones, who is a bigger body, can still be the fullback, and who can also potentially contribute a bit more in the run game? That's my thought process. I know we haven't exactly used Connor Hayward as much, but if we're not going to use him, why are we keeping him around and not giving him a chance to potentially have a bigger role somewhere else if someone wants him?
Right. Because we know the Steelers are pretty infamous. Like they try to do that type of thing where it's like, if they know that the athlete can be successful somewhere else, they'll try to make that work instead of keeping them. So I think it'll be interesting. But I'm like, wow, y'all really clocked me for that. And then here I was like, wow, I'm bringing this back up. Because
we clocked her pretty good.
You did. And so I just wanted my redemption here. I just wanted you all the devoted listeners to know. But I was like, are you kidding me?
All right. We thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. Doesn't cost you a thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews and Apple Podcasts. Make James real happy on his vacation. And until next time, this is your host, Cody and Nick and Jill signing off.
Peace.
Now it's time.